Critics have been warning about President Trump's presidency since day one, but our next guest argues in a new op-ed these Democratic critics are the real threat when it comes to our democracy.
Yep, along with the media in most cases. Fox News contributor, Washington Post columnist Marc Thiessen weighs in. Mark, how have Trump's enemies become the enemy of democracy?
Well, so the perfect example of this is the FISA court and the fact that the FBI lied to the FISA court about evidence in order to get a warrant to pursue Carter Page. Last week, the head judge of the FISA court, Rosemary Collyer, issued a blistering order to the FBI accusing them of falsifying information, withholding information that was detrimental to their case, and in one case, intentionally misleading the court by altering an email that withheld information that Carter Page had been a CIA source. This is incredibly damaging to the court because the court functions by necessity in secrecy. We depend on the FISA court for our national security to obtain warrants about imminent terrorist threats. If there's a terrorist that our intelligence community thinks may be planning an attack and it could be happening quickly, they go to the FISA court to get a warrant. And what the judge said in her order was that because of the FBI's misconduct, they are now calling into question all of the intelligence information that they've put in all of their all of their FISA applications, including in terrorist cases. So what they've done essentially in trying to pursue President Trump is they've damaged the bond of trust between the government and this secret court that we need, and that's going to harm our national security.
And Mark, there's a deadline. Judge Collyer put a January deadline.
Yes, she did. She wants the FBI to explain how are you going to fix this, and why shouldn't we call into question every order that you've given us? And on top of that, there's another problem, which is that because it's a secret court, there's a bond of trust not just between the government and the court, but between the court and the people. You know, we are depending on the fact that these judges are going to take into consideration all evidence, and the FBI is going to be honest in its interactions with the court. And because we now know that the FBI intentionally misled the court, then that means that people are going to call into question whether or not this court should continue to exist. There's a number of FISA provisions of the USA Patriot Act that come up in March, and there's a lot of people like Rand Paul and others who have been very critical of even the existence of the court. They're going to use this to try and gut that court, which is going to harm our national security.
Well, Mark, should they though? I mean, you just laid out a case of obviously a lot of neglect and misconduct that took place.
Well, here's the problem, is that the reason this court was put into the terrorist context is because under President Bush we had a terrorist surveillance program where we would pursue people who after 9/11 who might be causing a threat to the country, and people thought that was too much power in the government, so they had a FISA warrant process now. So now it had to go through judicial review. Now, we trust that court in order to make sure that we have to balance between this and our ability to move quickly.
Can we trust
and
the
this
court,
has damaged our ability to pursue terrorists.
But can we trust the court?
Well, it's not the court that lied. It was the FBI that lied to the court, and so now the court is asked the FBI to explain to the court by a certain deadline what it's doing to reform to make sure this never happens again.
But here's the problem: as Congressman Devin Nunes said, they let it be known that court was lied to. The judge said nothing until this was in the Horowitz report. So there's a remarkable lack of curiosity from the judges who may or may not have been duped. Duped in this case, maybe others. So I'm not sure how much of a victim these judges are of bad information. But we'll talk about that another time.
All right, Mark, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.